Hi everyone, I'm Shelley Peters and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing some vegan cooking, and the recipe I've chosen for today is curry. It's one of my favorite foods, Indian food, so I thought I would show you how to make a really simple vegetable korma. And the cool part is we're going to be using some whole spices. You can certainly use, the packaged spicing that you can buy at Indian food stores or even sometimes grocery stores. They're really good. But I wanted to use my own spices. It always seems to taste better, and you can also control the salt and sugar content of the whole dish. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by finishing my mise en place. I have everything organized, except I want to make a garlic and ginger paste. It's a really powerful sort of aromatic to add to this recipe. And I use equal parts ginger, about 10 chunks. I'm not very specific with this recipe, and I will have it online for you. About 10 chunks and about 10 cloves of garlic. And I turn them into a paste in my food processor with a little bit of oil. I typically use an oil that doesn't have a lot of flavor, like a grapeseed oil that can be cooked at a higher temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and make that. I've added the garlic and the ginger into the food processor. I've added a little bit of oil. I'm going to turn that on. And you can just whir it up, turn it on for a few minutes, scrape it down a few times, and you're literally looking for it to be a paste texture. I'm going to add a little bit more oil just so I can get it to come together a little bit better. I typically try to cook with as little oil as possible, and oftentimes without oil at all, but this time we're going to use a little bit to turn these fabulously ginger and garlic into a paste. The aroma is incredible. I wish you were here. Okay, so I think we're pretty well close to a paste now. And I'm going to move over now, and the next step we're going to take is we're going to put some probably I'm going to choose some coconut oil in a big pot, and I'm going to fry up the cardamom pods and the whole cloves. And it's going to season the oil in a really beautiful way. And after that's done, I will strain the oil so that the whole seeds are gone. Okay, we're ready to add the whole cloves and the whole cardamom pods to the heated coconut oil. And I'm just going to stir them up and get them going a little bit hotter. And then we're going to let them cook for probably, sort of 2 to 4 minutes until we get a really nice aroma coming, and the oil is. Okay, so the whole spices have been cooked down in the oil. Be careful; they do sometimes pop around in the oil, so it can be a little bit like dodging popcorn with an open lid. So just be careful with that. I've strained out the whole cloves and the whole cardamom pods, and the coconut oil is gorgeous. It's absolutely, it smells so good. And now I've added the onions, and I'm going to cook these onions for about 5 minutes on about medium. I like to do my onions a little bit slower so that you can really get them to caramelize and release the natural sugars. So I'm going to do that, and then once they're cooked for a while, then for the 5 minutes I want, then I'm going to add that paste that I made earlier, the garlic ginger paste, which, oh my God, it smells so good. It's amazing. That's the one thing about making curries. The aromas are just mind-blowing. They really are. And it really, you know, playing around with making curry can really teach you a lot about spices, teach you a lot about how to, you know, use your intuition on spices, and also just how to handle a higher amount of spices than you probably normally work with. So this is coming along quite nicely. I'm going to just give that another minute. And while I'm doing that, I will mention that I did use coconut oil. I just want to say that I don't use coconut oil very often. It is a saturated fat, even though it's made with plants. So it's more of a treat for me. It's not something that I eat on a regular basis. But in this case, coconut oil, grapeseed oil, canola oil, there's a few other oils that can actually handle the hot temperatures I need to cook this dish. Something like an olive oil is not something that, is not an oil that you want to use. It has what's called a low smoke point. So I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic ginger paste. And this kitchen is going to smell absolutely amazing between the whole cloves and the cardamom. I love cardamom. The onions, the garlic, and the ginger, amazing. So I'm going to cook this down for a while. Oh, it smells so good. I'm going to cook that for about another minute or so. And then I'm going to add all the vegetables that I've prepared. This particular vegetable korma, there are no rules. You can add whatever vegetables you want. I love broccoli. I try to eat broccoli every day. So broccoli, carrots, and potatoes are kind of a staple for me. I love potatoes and curry. I think that curry and potatoes is a match made in heaven. So those are going to go in. But before that, I'm going to add the remaining spices. And this is cumin seeds, turmeric. This is a Kashmiri chili powder. And this is ground coriander. So it's equal parts, these three, and 3 times the amount for coriander. That's kind of the rule of thumb. So I'll go ahead and add those now. And you're going to cook these spices until they're aromatic. And I find that if you don't want to add any more oil and your vegetables or your onion is sticking, add a little bit of either vegetable stock or water. One or the other will work really well, just to loosen things up and keep them from sticking, and you're not adding an enormous amount of oil. That's looking amazing. We're just going to let that cook for a little bit longer. I'm actually going to add a little bit of water. I always have a little container of water by the stove, and it's a great something really good that you can saute with if you want to avoid oil. So this is going to be amazing. Oh, it's really coming up nicely, and I really wish you were here because the smell is absolutely incredible. You can even smell the spiciness of it. It's going to be, I would call this a mild to medium spice for this recipe. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add all the vegetables. I'm just going to saute them in for just a second before I add my vegetable stock. Just want to give them a little bit of flavor, extra flavor, by being sauteed for a couple of seconds, and really move them around with those aromatics that you've already cooked. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that looks amazing. Okay, and I am going to go and grab the stock and pour that on. And what I do whenever I'm doing a soup or a stew or a curry, I just add enough stock the first time around to cover the vegetables. I don't want to overdo the amount of liquid because I want to be able to control the flavor. So I start with a smaller amount of stock, just enough to cook the vegetables, to cover them so that they'll cook. I'm going to add a little bit more stock, but I don't want to overdo it because then I can play with it at the end and make sure it tastes absolutely amazing. Just a little bit more to give it a little bit. There we go. That looks good. Now I'm going to let that cook for, I mean, in my opinion, sort of, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes for sure, just to incorporate those flavors. And we're going to have an amazing dinner. Hey, well, we did it. The curry is almost done, the vegetable korma. The only one thing we're going to do, actually two things. We're going to thicken it up with a little bit of tahini and almond butter. What I usually do whenever I thicken a soup or a stew with a nut butter, I take off some of the hot stock into usually a measuring cup, and then I transfer the nut butter into the hot stock and just give it a bit of a chance to melt so that it'll incorporate a little easier for you. Just takes a second to get it melting in the hot stock from the actual dish that you've made. So okay, so that's looking pretty good. And that's going to thicken it up and just make it really rich and creamy. And again, this is something that you can play with. I put in about 2 tablespoons of both the almond butter and the tahini. And I think that's probably going to do it for me. But you know what? You might like a little creamier. So you can add, say, a 1/4 cup of each instead of the 2 tablespoons of each. And that looks just gorgeous, and it tastes amazing. The other thing you're going to want to do is obviously be tasting it. Once you get it cooking, do some tasting as it goes along. You're going to want to salt it at some point. I did that just before I brought the pot over here, and it's a beautiful flavor now. The salt just perked it up a little bit. I probably put in about a teaspoon of salt. And the other thing that is really nice is just add some fresh coriander to it as well. You can add some to the pot, keep some aside, and you can garnish the dishes that you serve your guests as well. So while everybody's waiting for the vegetable korma, you can cut up some peppers with hummus. That's a beautiful, cool, refreshing appetizer to have. And I've put some, I've made some brown rice previously. So I've just got some warmed brown rice on my plate here, and I can add the the korma on top. And it's an absolutely gorgeous, filling and satisfying dinner. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make vegetable korma, and thanks for joining me. You can find me on RX Vegan on Facebook and on Instagram at RX Vegan. So take care and see you soon.